Hey guys, Bugcat7 here. Okay, it is Tuesday, February 6th, 2024. I'd like to thank you for visiting the Stonewall Research 2 channel here on YouTube. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Well guys, it's one of my aims here on this channel to sort of convince the viewer that we as a species, as a race, are not really responsible for many of the ancient architecture, megalithic architecture, and some of the more finer architecture, stone masonry of the past. It's not us. I'm not, I don't want to be like negative and where people are going to sort of be like, that's sort of, slighting us as a race, etc., but whether it is or not, I don't intend it to be, but we have to get at the truth here, and it seems to be, all the evidence seems to point to the giant humanoid races of the past being the ones to have this knowledge of engineering of this stone masonry on a megalithic scale, and that being that they be of such giant stature and such great strength would sort of be different than how we would, our perception would be of how we would build things, you see. So, and who would have the ability and the strength to move these objects around, without, supposing it was, hundreds of, people of average size, let's say, or whatever. People of such stature could move these things around more easily than we could. And, one of the arguments that I have about it is that they used slings to do it. If you were of such great stature, you would be able to move, some of these giant humanoids were supposed to, by examining the sort of massive bone structure and where the ligaments attached to the skeletal remains, they judged that these humanoid people were, extremely muscular, with those big bones, etc. So, they had great strength. So it's simple to see if there were such creature, if you're in agreement with that, and this channel aims to sort of convince people that with accounts and other mythology and histories, etc. So one of the ancient methods of moving things around is with slings, so even primitive peoples of today are using slings to carry heavy items. So these women here are carrying these bushels of wood. They're using slings, and the top of the sling goes around their head and is connected to the bushel in the back. So they have these slings around their head to help them move these heavy loads of wood. This one looks like bamboo, and this looks like firewood, and there's some other kind of wood here, probably for, crafting things, most likely. But slings have been used for thousands of years. So what's to stop people from using slings in the ancient past? Well, that's where it comes from, the ancient past. So if you are some giant humanoid person, then moving blocks of stone that weighed 2.3 tons, such as the average stone at the Great Pyramid in Giza, which, again, look, here's some ladies moving. There's a guy and a gal moving a washing machine here. Here's two guys moving a safe Okay, another gal and a guy moving a bigger washing machine. So slings have been used for thousands of years to move stuff. Okay, so what's to stop creatures of immense stature, if you agree that they existed in all these accounts? It must have some sort of, you believe in the Adena, so they're real according to mainstream. So 8 footers, stuff that they say in the history now that they've amended the history of height and growth to reflect larger people in the past, but only 6 foot tall, while the Adena were like 8 foot tall. Okay, and by the way, where did these people come from? Like the Bell-Beaker people and the Adena people. There's no history. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's giant humanoid type people. They must have had a past. How'd they get there? How'd they get up there? Where are their previous species leading up to them? Do they have any evidence of that, or even looking for it, or care about finding it, or even when they do? So look, you just grab a couple of guys here and get some slings and you move around blocks because you weigh 2,000 pounds or 1,200 pounds and have the strength of an elephant. Okay? And by the way, the Giza Pyramid is 8-sided. Okay? If these giants were the ones that engineered this thing, okay, those are very slight inverted angles. You tell me people are flipping around 2.5-ton blocks of stone with perfectly, polished sides, for the casing, etc., casing stones. They're flipping them around without damaging the sides there on all 6 sides of the block, and in a slightly inverted angle into an 8-sided pyramid. And that was done by primitive people. Sure it was. It's just, look, there's some people who believe the giant humanoids did it because it's based on everything that I've gone over on the channel, and I want to convince people of that by either going over accounts or mythologies or histories or whatever it might be. So, and where else can pyramids be found? Well, I want to read to you some of Aztec mythology. Okay, and it's interesting that on many ruins in Mesoamerica, in Central America, and even in South America, as they dig down deeper, the quality of the constructions get better and better. Okay, more precise stone cut, whereas the Aztecs had this sort of rubble stone or gravel stone and mortar construction that they did. And I presented on my other channel, Stonewall Research 1 channel, okay, a author that sometimes writes for Ancient Origins. He's a journalist, actually, and he went to the cities there in Mexico, and he shows this platform there. I think it was at Teotihuacan, and built out of mortar. And above the platform there, there's like a gaping hole into a recess there. Okay, so below it was like the beginning construction of a stairway up into a pyramid-like structure. Okay, and it was all cut perfect stone up to this platform level. Then above the platform level, the same sort of architecture was applied, but it was done in this known Aztec rubble mortar wall style. So it went from precisely cut stone below it, and above this platform, this mortar platform, continued with this mortar rubble type construction that the Aztecs are known for. Okay, and the Mayans had a similar type method as well, and I show this on this channel as well, but the Rio Beck style, where you see these beautiful buildings, it's like unbelievable, and the immense stature, with giant steps and openings and all kind of stuff, and they're built of precisely cut stone, whereas the Mayan technology afterwards is rubble and mortar stone, similar to the Aztecs. Okay, and you can see all sorts of repairs. And the Rio Beck style with the serpent mouths and all kind of stuff was a reconstruction from these demolished buildings. And, there's evidence of these catastrophes and mentions of these catastrophes in the mythologies of these people and attributions, etc., etc. So let me just read you these things. It won't take very long because they're very short, but what is said is just, I don't know, you have to really think about it. Okay, what is being said here? Again, more bolstering to my argument that, the giant humanoids of the past with these vaulted craniometric humanoids, cone heads, whatever configuration it took, where these giants had so many different configurations, including horns and everything else. And we are just one of those races from the past, one of these humanoid races from the past. I can talk more about, I don't want to get into it, but I've gone over it on actually this channel, this Stonewall Research channel, and many of my videos talking about giants and humanoids and the present Watusi tribe and its chiefs of the Fiji Islands, etc., etc. So I don't want to get into it here, but let me just read to you, okay, about this Aztec mythology that applies to giants. Okay, so it's just interesting to me what is being said here. Okay, in Aztec mythology, the Quinametsin populated the world during the previous era of the Son of Rain, which I find interesting what this Son of Rain is. Okay, creation myths. The term five suns refers to the belief of certain Nahua cultures and Aztec peoples that the world has gone through five distinct cycles of creation and destruction, with the current era being the fifth. It is primarily derived from a combination of myths, cosmologies, and eschatology, and actual occurrences, because they have that recorded by science. The dopes, he's like, don't correlate the two together and have no relationship whatsoever. Come on now. They know that these catastrophes and cataclysms happened. It's stupid. So whatever, let me read on here. They were punished by the gods because they did not venerate them, and their peak civilization came to an end as a result of great calamities and as a punishment from the heavens for grave sins they had committed. So punishment from the heavens and grave sins. Oh boy. Okay, what's going on there? Could be something like this. Worlds in collision, earth in upheaval, blah blah blah. Could be. The construction of the, listen to this now, the construction of the pyramid of Cholula, okay, which is this thing right here. Okay, this amazing structure right here. All right. And the city of Teotihuacan, the place where men become gods, was attributed to the Quinametsin giants. Okay, so here you have an attribution of these constructions to the giants directly through the Aztec. Why didn't they say they built it? Even if it is their mythology or whatever, wouldn't you just say, we built it, not these giant folk from the past? Why wouldn't they want to take credit for it? If everybody knew differently, that would be, a false claim. So wouldn't go around saying that in public if it wasn't true. Okay, many of these people probably knew their histories through oral histories or whatever, and they knew they didn't build it. Okay, just like the Rio Beck style, Mayan Rio Beck. It's not Mayan. They stumbled upon it, just like the Incas stumbled upon the you know giant constructions down there in South America. Just all the giant stuff down there built by somebody else. All the megalithic stuff is not built by them, it's built by these giants. You see? You get a whole bunch of guys together with slings under something. Right? Big old guys. Big guys. You move this stuff around. No sleds and slings and no sleds and ramps and stuff like that. Just slings. That's it. Pick it right up. Walk it right up to where it's got to go. Whatever it is. A giant block or a whole pallet of them. Certainly would take. Sure, the pyramid at Giza took 20 years to build, okay? Not by us, by giant humanoids. Take them a lot shorter period of time to do it, wouldn't you think? Get a lot more work done, right? If you were of such stature. Okay, so these places were not attributed, they're not taking claim for them, they're attributing to these giants. Alright, so here's some of these four giants who supported the sky at the beginning of the fifth sun are not in the Wikipedia Baloney Encyclopedia, online Baloney Encyclopedia here, and some other places here. Just don't have any information about it. But let's read about some of the sons of these people who started these areas and cities throughout, Central America there. Mixtecatl from Nuatl, inhabitant of the land of clouds, is one of the 6 giant sons of Aztec, Mixcoatl, and Tlachtolcuhtli, or Inasuitl. I butchered all those, I'm sorry about that. That populated the earth after the Great Flood during the fifth sun in Aztec mythology. The fifth sun who founded Mixtland, from where the natives of the region known today as Mixteca come from. Okay, so real natives come from this area Mixteca, founded by one of these giants. Okay, so I just, in my head, I'm always thinking about what we know, okay, what we really know about, and that is the Adena and the Hopewell. We do know about that. We do know about this relationship that they had there. Why did they have this relationship? Well, in some cases in Native American mythology, they say that they kept humans as slaves, okay, so is this coming from that giant society of the Hopewell? Wouldn't the Hopewell rebel against the giants if they didn't like them and didn't think? And look, if the Hopewell are the Iroquois, okay, the Iroquois are the Hopewell who moved there from the Ohio Valley as the lady from Cornell, the native lady there, okay, who's Tuscaroran, a member of the Iroquoian tribe, which is really the Haudenosaunee. That's their real name. They came from the Ohio Valley 1,000 years ago, 200 years after the Adena, civilization was ended, through cataclysms and all other sorts of things, which are all known about. Okay, cataclysms, didn't just affect there, apparently. Okay, so this narrative that's underneath here is this from this Geronimo de Mendicia from 1525 to 1604, a narrative that he took from the native peoples there. Surrounded by the seas and submerged in them for a long time, the old frog with 1,000 jaws and bloody tongues, and the strange name it takes, Tlachtolcuhtli Iztac Mixcoatl, the fierce white cloud serpent who lives in Quitlauco, joins her in sweet collusion, and 6 Tlacame with love and gender. The six brothers on earth dwell and are the trunk of various races. The firstborn, the giant Zalua of Itzacan and Epatan and Huacacholan, the cities he founded. Tenoch, the great Aztec caudillo in Mexico, stops the march of his people and builds the great Tenochtitlan, a lake city. The strong Quetzalcoatl founds Umetzcatl and gives its indolent people a seat. On the shores of the Gulf, Cicalancatl, the brave Mixtecatl, takes refuge. Of Mixtecapan in the Sour Lands, Atamitl, the Coxacoyotl, always lives in mountains near Mexico, and there it thrives in rich populations such as Tolan, Zilotepec, and Atampan. So these are where these giants went and started these peoples here, apparently, or gave rise to these peoples here. Again, I'm going to think about, because this seems to be how it was in the ages of the giants, as Jason Jarrell and Sarah Farmer like to say in their book, Ages of the Giants, about the giants here in the Americas. Okay, what was going on in the ages of the giants? Well, apparently you have an organized society, and again, if the Iroquois or the Hopewell, who came from the Ohio Valley and got their laws from the big man, not the great man or the terrific man or the wonderful man, okay, or the knowledgeable man or whatever, the big man who is the great peacemaker, okay? So they got their laws from the big man, who is probably one of these Adena people. And by the way, in those laws, there's a prohibition against cannibalism. Okay, so why would the giants, the big man, be giving them a prohibition against cannibalism? Just aside from what I'm talking, I don't want to get off on that tangent, okay? Doesn't make any sense. But just to let you know, if you don't know, okay, well, they had to do like a special amendment in the U.S. Congress, because all these letters from the founding fathers who borrowed from the great law of peace from the Iroquois, all of these sort of concepts of freedom and democracy that they borrowed from the Iroquoian great law of peace, they had to put a special notice in there, a recognition in there in Congress in the 2000s, I think, or something like that, because of all these letters about it that they found from the founding fathers. Okay, so the laws, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights is based on the great law of peace of the Iroquois. They neglected to tell you that in school. Well, I hadn't come to that yet. I had to look at some of these letters, I guess, and come to that conclusion. All right? So it makes a lot of sense, because I read about the Great Law of Peace on my other channel there, my Stonewall Research 1 channel. And if the Iroquois came from the Ohio Valley 1,000 years ago to the New York region, okay, and the Cherokee stayed there, okay, it's a high indication to me that some sort of schism was going on in a giant area that the Hopewell and Adena civilizations had, control over. After several hundred years, you got to understand that after all that relative safety, because, look, it seems to me that peoples of our stature would come under the auspices of greater peoples who seem very fierce fighters, by the way. They said King Mongatuxi out here on Long Island was a great defender of his people. The other tribes around the New York region and Connecticut and Massachusetts, they were all terrified of him, but, then called him all kinds of names and stuff, but, this was in more historic times, right? But he built canals there, all right? Okay, he was giant stature, and he built canals, okay? I'm telling you, people. All right, let me read on with this. Okay, so now we're done with that account by Geronimo de Mendicia well, from, the people who were there, the Waddle people there. Let me read on about these suns and all kind of stuff. It's just interesting what they say here. Okay. Again, why would they say these people built these things, these giant people built these things, when they could just take attribution for it, which is often what these other tribes in South America, other organized societies, the kings and rulers of these societies just erased previous histories and made their own up. Okay, but let's read more about these other guys. Middle is one of the 6 giant sons of Aztec, Mixcoatl, and this other guy that populated the earth after the Great Flood during the 5th sun in Aztec mythology. The 6 sons who climbed the mountains near Mexico and raised the populations of Tepec, Tolan, and Atampan. Okay, so these giants are creating these societies here in these areas around Central America. Again, you have giant peoples as the ruling class over average sized people. Okay. And again, where did these giant sized people come from? They must have some sort of progressive evolution from the past of where they came from, or they've been here for so long and our whole story about mankind and evolution and everything is all mixed up. Okay, they just couldn't come out of nowhere. They've never explained this about the Bell Beaker people or the Adena people. It has to be based on some scientific foundings. Okay, they just can't appear out of nowhere. They have to have some sort of history going into the past. And the accounts of giants in the Americas, if you read all the articles, which I read many of them, I read more than I presented on my channel. I'm very knowledgeable about the accounts of the giants, okay? Well, they dug up these things in the Americas in all different sorts of mediums, configurations. I just, if I went through many of them on my other channel, the Stonewall Research 1 channel, okay? And all relative to these giant earthworks and things like that. Again, engineers and builders. Okay, it's just the sling method just makes it so easy to understand that these people of a giant stature who are found all over the world. I went through this on my channel as well. Okay, all the different accounts of the giants, international, in the United States. Okay, all these accounts. All right, so, some by universities and stuff like that, but skeptics are always quick to deny these things based on whatever their biases and everything else. Okay, and I personally have not read into all of these authors who focus on the giants being cannibals, or any other authors, even Jim Vieira and Hugh Newman. I don't want to contaminate my thinking. Okay, I can think, I really can, on my own. I don't need them to influence my thinking. Although I referenced some of these videos in the past with Jim Vieira, he just simply mentions accounts. You make of it what you want. He didn't say anything about it. Just here, look at this. But like the mainstream academics who make up stories about these things and interpret things. I went over this on my Stonewall Research channel with William A. Ritchie, the guy from New York who dug up all these oversized artifacts, including harpoons inland. I had this going on with Tim McSweeney. I found a sea turtle, a giant megalithic sea turtle, up there in Connecticut. And I photographed it. It's just nobody knows it's there. It's just a giant sea turtle, megalithic sea turtle sitting right there with flippers and everything. And he's like, oh, how do you know it's a sea turtle? It's not a sea turtle. It's a land turtle. It's a terrestrial turtle. It's a terrapin, blah, blah, blah. I was like, nobody's seen it. It had white under his chin. It had an eye carved into it. I show it on my channel. Buried in the bushes in the mountains there in Connecticut there. And you can see it's flippers on him. There's no claws or anything like that. It's just all flippers. They designed a terrapin once totally differently, but it's easy to understand. They had harpoons in the burials in inland New York. Why harpoons? Why not spears? They had to be harpoons. Okay, so look, we're talking about maritime cultures. All right, as far as those people were concerned, and many of the stone giants were living up here in New York, right next to the Algonquin, with all the stories of the good giants that you never hear about. They're all bad. But here you have it in Aztec mythology how these were good giants. You see? They're not bad. But later on, oh boy, they cannibals and everything. And you got to understand something. You could ask any professor of native peoples here in the Americas, all right? Cannibal is just a pejorative given to any tribe that's your enemy. It's very common among American Indian tribes. So focusing on that the giants were cannibals is just pejoratives given. You know that many of the Indian names were pejorative names given by other tribes. That's how we were informed about it. So we gave those tribes those pejorative names that other Indian tribes gave them. Said, who are those people over there? And the Cherokee said some pejorative name of those people over there, and that's the name that they used for the American Indians. Now, you named it 3 different ways that they came up with the American. Made up, like the Iroquois, that's not their name, it's the Haudenosaunee, right? That's made up by the French. Okay, from the area that they came from, like here on Long Island, they said, "Oh, well, where do you guys come from? Who are you people? Whatever." It's just like, they didn't have a name for themselves. The people here on Long Island just like were people. They were like, there's no tribe or anything like that. It's like, that's my brother over there and his folks and family and friends and stuff, and here's me, and They didn't say it, so they just called them what was their area there. So they said, what do you call this area over here? Whatever name they gave it, Narragansett or blah, blah, blah. He said, okay, that's what your name is. The area that you come from, that's what your name is now. And they're like, okay, whatever. We don't have a name, we're people who live here. So in any case, those are 3 ways. Either pejorative names that other tribes had for them, okay, made up names like the Iroquois by the French, or the area that they came from. That's how the tribal names of the American people came about. I go over it on my other channel. So this whole thing with the cannibals is bullshit. All right, I've been trying to tell people that for a long time, but if you want to go down that rabbit hole, that's why I don't have a lot of subscribers. Who says they're not cannibals? It says it in the Bible. Well, they were using it over there in Europe and the Middle East too. Anybody that you hated were cannibals, okay? It's just a negative thing to call somebody else. It's demonization of the enemy. We're good at that. Just check out all the propaganda from World War II. Boy, we are sure good at propaganda. These people didn't look like they were depicted on these posters and everything. Like, you know what Japanese and German people look like? I've seen some real beautiful ones, by the way. So I don't know what they're talking about. So in any case, let me read on here about other stuff here. Okay, that was that guy. Let's go to the next guy here. Okay, so Tenoch was a ruler. He was a giant founder. They were just mentioning in that article there. The 14th century, during the Aztec travels from Aztlan to Tenochtitlan, Tenoch's father was Aztec Mixcoatl, who had a total of 7 sons with 2 wives. The Tenochtitlan people were originally referred to as Tenochca, then the Mexica. You see, so it's not even their name. Just keep on giving them more names, or whatever. Just mix everything up. Okay, so let's read on what it says over here, because they added this. He was a respected chief who was elected to power by the Council of Elders and died sometime between 1350 and 1375, depending on the source. There is disagreement whether Tenoch is a mythological person or a real Mexican leader who was later mythologized. Tenoch was one of 9 Mexican leaders who were told how Mexico could gain support for the forces of nature. After traveling southward for a span of 200 years, the Mexicans found the sign. In honor of their leader, they named the small reedy island in Lake Texcoco Tenochtitlan, and Tenochtitlan soon became the capital of the Aztec Empire. The Nahuatl symbols of his name are found in the Mexican flag: Tetl, the rock; Noctli, the prickly pear cactus. The theocratic government of Tenoch lasted from 1269 to 1363. In 1325, he founded Mexico City, which was nicknamed Tenochtitlan in honor of the Claudio. Okay, so he's another builder, of this society here who is a giant.
You don't know where is the phone?
No.
I called the police, I don't find the phone.
Oh, shit.
What, somebody inside steal, and he told me, yeah, I want arrested, call the police. I don't find the phone.
I don't know where the phone is.
Oh my goodness.
So there's my coworker who needs to call the police on a customer who's stealing and can't find the phone. Isn't that great? Okay. I'm in the back of my store here doing this video, obviously. I got interrupted on my last channel too a couple of times by coworkers, but it's alright. Anyway, I don't know where the phone is. And somebody's stealing, just petty thieves all the time in convenience stores, just rampant everywhere. Okay, so another one of these giant sons of this person, again, it seems to me back during the times we're talking about, this is shortly after the 1200s, so after these great cataclysms put an end to these empires, etc., etc. So he's possibly a historic figure without confirmation here, but it's interesting why they picked this time and not another time to tell the story about this guy or whatever. So it would coincide with the late era of the Adena and maybe even the Belviger people as well. They have the timelines all mixed up, or this sort of giant genocide could have started on the European side and worked its way through into the Americas. Who knows? But you have to understand, these large complex societies are going to have these internal conflicts going on politically. We have organized society with law, and judgment, etc. So you have to think about it in those terms. It cannot be any other way. If there's such a thing as the Dina Hopewell, society that covered this vast continental area, whatever, and that's huge, complex society with many more members to the society that they're going to attribute anything for. They don't find mass burials of people. The people were cremated. Okay, and that's why they don't find the bodies of all these people, just the dignitary people who were these rather large people, the Adena people, or any other large chieftain from even more historic times. I read to you in more than one account on my other channel about these great chieftains being buried in these mounds, which may have been like secondary burials. Many secondary burials occurred in these mounds. So Umakatl from the Nahuatl, where the rubber is born, is one of the 6 giant sons of Mixcoatl and Tlactocutli that populated the earth after the Great Flood during the 5th son in Aztec mythology. The 3rd son who founded Cuitlacoapan, the place where Puebla is now, in addition to Tantahuihuacan and Huitzilopochtli. Just another one of the brothers there, creating another society somewhere else, which I'm sure engaged in long distance trade and all this kind of, because that's what these people did. You have the Incas all up and down South America with all their trails and everything, but was it their trails? The attribution to the peoples in the Americas to all these ancient constructions and whatever they may be, mounds or stone masonry, megaliths, whatever it might be, just weren't done by any of these people. It was all stumbled upon, and then they derived their culture from what they found and what they could understand, and probably a lot of folk tales like this and others. This is an interesting one here because they don't follow with that um, translation from that guy back in the 1500s there. They say something else. No, actually, it's the next one. No, it's this one. The Zelhua guy. Okay, so Zelhua is one of the seven giants in Aztec mythology who escaped the flood by ascending the mountain of Tlaloc in the terrestrial paradise, and afterwards built the Great Pyramid of Cholula, one of the six giant sons of Mixcoatl, a personification of the Milky Way. A Dominican friar wrote this account. Before the Great Inundation, which took place 4,800 years after the erection of the world, the country of Anahuac was inhabited by giants, all of whom either perished in the inundation or were transformed into fishes, save seven who fled into caverns. Okay, wow, a lot is being said there as far as I'm concerned, okay, from this interpretation of their mythology there. And you have to think about it. When the waters subsided, one of the giants called Zelhua, surnamed the Architect, went to Cholula, where, as a memorial of the Tlaloc, which had served for an asylum to himself and his six brethren, he built an artificial hill in the form of a pyramid. He ordered bricks to be made in the province of Tlamanalco at the foot of the Sierra of Cacotl. In order to convey them to Cholula, he placed a file of men who passed them from hand to hand. The gods beheld with wrath an edifice, the top of which was to reach the clouds. Irritated at the daring attempt of Zelhua, they hurled fire on the pyramid. Interesting. Numbers of the workmen perished. The work was discontinued, and the monument was afterwards dedicated to Quetzalcoatl. Zelhua was a giant of the time of the universal deluge. See that? Isn't that all very interesting? Okay, so with these mythologies, you obviously have to read between the lines. Okay, what were these great deluges? Well, it just so happens, in the science, mainstream science, that all these sort of cataclysms and catastrophes were going on somewhere between 1100 and 1300 AD in the Americas, okay? And something like the Carrington event could have been going on, but a lot stronger, okay? Maybe something even more intense than that, because these people were also into astronomy. Well, so all these people from around the world, they always say, well, they had to see what was happening because, it brought, the crops and, the calendar and all this kind of stuff like that. Yeah. But why are you watching the skies all the time? Okay, well, maybe if stuff starts to move around up there, from your mythologies and histories and all kind of stuff from the past, something's going to go wrong, you see. So this is why the people around the planet were watching the skies, not for the agricultural cycles. It's just you don't need that to figure that out. Any dummy can figure it out. Okay, all you got to do is live. All right, it's real easy. All right, that's not why they were watching the skies. They were watching the skies to see what the hell was going on up there. Okay, bad stuff moving around when it wasn't supposed to be moving around. Okay, because that's a clear indication that something bad might happen. All right, so just take it with a grain of salt, whatever the historians say. Forget about what they say. They're a bunch of nonsense anyway. Hey, boss, what kind of story you want me to make up now? I saw this thing. I don't know what to make of it or whatever. It looks like they were looking at this stuff a lot or whatever. Well, how to be the crops and all that stuff. Yeah, sure. Okay. Sure. Right. Of course, they're going to dedicate the seasons. The seasons are when these things come alive. All the food's going to come. Sure, you're going to honor that. You don't have to watch the skies to figure it all out or whatever. Just look in front of you, okay, and sniff the air. That's all. Just come on now. We still have the same level of intelligence we had the past 200,000 years. That's what scientists say. That's, in other words, the same level of intelligence we got right now. See? Alright? So, not everybody was getting fooled in the past. Come on now. I think they even show, like the later Romans, they didn't believe in any of the gods or anything like that. They already, forgotten about all that stuff. They're already secular, all of them. So, very interesting what's being said here, don't you think? There's one thing they added in here that's different from one to the next. And in the last one here, I think, they just reiterate that account from that Spanish fellow, Geronimo de Mendiza. Zicalacato, or Zicalancato, or Zicalacoatl, from Nahuatl, teacup serpent, this is interesting, is one of the 6 giant sons of Mixcoatl and Tlatoacuti, that populated the earth after they fell during the 5th sun in Aztec mythology. This whole 5th sun thing is just extremely interesting, okay? Talking about probably 5 cataclysms from the past. There's stuff moving around up there in the solar system. We're in a quiet time now, but, it's probably going to happen again. It's been going on forever, before recorded history and ancient history and everything. Going on again. The 4th son, who settled on the coast of the Gulf of Mexico in the region called Zicalanco, from Nahuatl, in the region of the teacups or glass of dungeon, which I have no idea what that means, which confirms the abundance that there is in that region of such a vegetable product. Okay, so here are the giants directly associated with agriculture. Okay, so again, alright, not to dismiss us and our intelligence, etc., but it seems to be that we were gifted an awful lot from the giant humanoids of the past. Okay, the big man that the Iroquois or the Haudenosaunee are referring to in the past is not a figurative big man. Okay, coming from the Ohio Valley where the Adena were for like 1,000 years or something like that. Okay, they took the culture with them. Okay, and no cannibalism allowed. It's just one of their laws. Okay, that were borrowed heavily from the founding fathers of the United States. Okay, so start getting a bigger picture about the giants, okay? All this shit about the giants being cannibals is nothing but a bunch of bullshit, alright? Just simple demonization of the enemy that they did to all their enemies, giant or not, okay? All cannibals, okay? Because it's a bad thing to say. You get your people upset about them. You're going to tell them that. Simple as how we do it today. Right? Okay, so start, grow up, alright? There's no giant cannibals. They were very sophisticated. Yes, after they were destroyed, okay, there was remnants of them living in Europe, and these are where all the other stories about them come from, of us eradicating them. Like Jack and the Beanstalk. Alright? So, in any case, I just wanted to read to you all of these mythologies of the Aztec, because they more or less directly point to the giants being the architects of these great structures of the past and architects of societies and cultures. Okay, to have this kind of organization going on in the past to build these things would require and a massive amount of people. See, when you hear about the actual numbers of people that were there in Central America during the time of the conquistadors, all right, that according to Spanish historians, not guys with tinfoil hats and the alternative, side of things, all right, they killed somewhere between 14 and 19 million people, all right? That's how many peoples were in the Americas at the time, okay? And as far as the history of the Americas goes, in all through recorded history, at least what we know about it, all right? This is the part we didn't know, that the people were coming back and forth to the Americas because experts lived here, experts in agriculture, okay? Could these people have been left over from Atlantis, these giant people? So it's supposed to be the people of Atlantis were supposed to be of giant stature, And C.W. Schramm, who wrote the very first book on archaeology. Before this, there were no other books on archaeology. He was the first guy to write a book on archaeology. Okay, while he came to live here in the Americas. And a lot of people want to put him down because he worked for the Ministry of Propaganda for the Nazis. Well, they kicked him out of there and put him on the front lines to get shot. Okay, he didn't have any love for the Nazis at all. That's why he was there on the front lines, you see. He wasn't very cooperative because he was a writer. And he managed a huge publishing house. He's a well-known writer, and writers from around the world knew him. And his interest was archaeology. And one of his second interests was giant skeletal remains, or giant remains of humans or humanoids. Especially here in the Americas, where he said archaeology was being suppressed. All right. So, you take what you want out of these mythologies from the Aztecs here. Okay, again, when you see, like I showed on my Stonewall Research channel, my Stonewall Research 1 channel, the journalist from Ancient Origins who shows their photograph of this platform in Mexico City there, and Teotihuacan, okay, and the underneath this platform in the shadows in a cavern area there, created by the platform there, it's all perfectly cut stone. And above it, to continue it in the same architectural style, with almost very close carvings of the animals depicted as the bases of the railings for these staircases there, but done in the Aztec style, in a more primitive style. Okay, they're not the architects of these buildings. Someone else was, right? And these people stumbled across this. Okay, during and after one of these cataclysm periods, and they carried the stories of the real giants who existed from the past, who were mythologized. Not that they were myths. They were real people who were mythologized later on. Some up into the 1300s. Okay, which there are many accounts of giant chieftains in historical times in the Americas, especially in North America. And the Plains Indians were among the tallest in the world in 1800. How'd they get that way? It just doesn't come out of nowhere, folks. People like the Adena and the Bell Beavers just don't come out of nowhere. They have to have some sort of past leading up to them. But nothing is said, nothing is done. As a matter of fact, in the Americas, they said that very little was understood about these people. That's what mainstream says. Right? They're just even bothering to try to understand now. Because they're resisting. They don't really want to. It tells a totally different story of the past. And they don't like that. It irritates them, just like the fact that these giant humanoids were the engineers that went around the world or covered the world, that built all these megalithic things. Okay, guys, just more evidence in the mythologies here. Among the many things I present to you on the Stonewall Research 1 channel and this channel, my new channel. Okay? Just think about it. Alright? People of giant stature could move these blocks, these megalithic blocks, easily with slings. You see? Girls are lifting these things who are like 5 feet tall with slings. You see? The easiest thing to figure out, an ancient tool. Alright? But first you gotta believe that there were people of such and such a stature. And if they were experts at building with stone, wouldn't you want to hire them to do the work for you if you had a lot of gold, a lot of money, or whatever you're going to give? You're going to call the experts, right? If you want something built for you good. Alright, well, this is probably an era of the giants, a role they took on after these cataclysms and everything got mixed up and nobody knew what the histories were really. They're just tales from the past. See? Alright, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed that little bit there, and I want you to think about it. Alright, because if you're following the thread that we built these things and how we did it, you're barking up the wrong tree. You're on a wild goose chase. Alright? There's nothing there to find. Alright? We didn't do it. So stop bothering to think about how we did it. We didn't do it. Giant humanoid type peoples did it in the past who were not human. Just want to look at them. Their stature, their totally different DNA, totally different species or subspecies. Everything has to revolve around us, of course, because we're the survivors. We're the best killers and probably the most agile in the current gravity that we have, because if you go back in time, there's no way that these giant animals could exist in the gravity we have today and move around. Okay? Maybe another reason why the Hopewell were with the Adena or the Brighton Winter people with their ruling class is for protection, not only from other giant tribes or peoples or whatever, but also from the kind of animals that were around. I don't care how many spears and bows and arrows you have, okay? Trying to kill one of these things with any of those weapons would be futile. Let me tell you something. You could throw one of those lateral spears at how many miles an hour, and it's a pretty lethal weapon. But to kill this thing, let me tell you how tough bear skin is and all that kind of stuff. And animals don't die so easy. They don't die so easy when you're trying to spear them or shoot them with arrows and stuff. They don't die so easy. Okay, and the bigger these things were and the tougher their hides were. But maybe if you were one of these guys, you could dispatch them rather quickly because you had the strength and the power to do it. 1, 2, 3. Right? Okay, guys. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that a little bit, and think about it. And we'll be back with another video real soon. Thanks a lot, guys. Bugcat7 signing out. Peace.